before I took this job, just as a way of illustrating what a Peace Corps volunteer does and how we interact with other partners. I would say that partnership is really one of our key strategies, and that's why our relationship with Rotary is so important. So my nephew, Jimmy Schneider, when he graduated from Michigan State University, had a degree in international relations. He went to Mozambique, where we trained him to be an HIV/AIDS Peace Corps volunteer. So his scope of work was working with highly affected communities of HIV. He lived in northern Mozambique in a little town called Niquadala. It was at a major intersection of two big highways, so it was a place where there was a big truck stop, and there was a pretty active sex industry there, and there was a lot of HIV, a lot of truck drivers going back and forth. Jimmy he worked with youth, especially young men. He formed an NGO, little NGO called JOMA, which worked through art and music and theater to promote HIV messages. He also created a youth soccer club, both for boys and girls, that went around and played games and had tournaments in other areas nearby, villages nearby, and then always concluded with an HIV presentation by the young men who had been trained. And he eventually took JOMA national, and it became a Peace Corps, Mozambique national effort to involve young men. So in his second year, he actually was a national director of this youth program for young men. So that was one part of what he did. The other part, it was that he worked with groups of people living with HIV/AIDS, and these were men and women of all different ages. The youngest was 15, the oldest was about 60. They worked in collaboration with the district hospital and provided, and Columbia University's Mailman School of Public Health provided a lot of assistance to Jimmy, both in terms of training him in HIV/AIDS, but also providing supervision, mentoring, supplies to help him do his job, technical support in general. So working in partnership with Columbia University really added to the rigor of his program, and also he worked in the hospital that was supported technically by Columbia University. So whenever a person was diagnosed with HIV/AIDS, they were offered the opportunity to join a club of people living with HIV, and that club went out and did community awareness about preventing HIV/AIDS. They did health talks at the hospital among people who were waiting for their services. They also promoted a better understanding and compassion of people living with HIV, and then they provided support for people who were receiving the life-saving drugs, the antiretrovirals, because it's very important if you're taking ARVs, antiretrovirals, that you maintain your regimen, that you take your drugs faithfully, because the HIV virus can mutate, and it's really important for controlling the epidemic that everyone takes their medications on time. So when people missed appointments, they would go out and visit them and ensure that they were able to get back to their appointments. So they provided support for child care or for transportation, or if they were sick, they would provide, just general care. And so it was a really community-based approach. And they were linked into the district hospital. They worked closely with the district health department and with other community groups, Young Men's Club, active with the youth clubs there. So partnership was just a really important part of that Peace Corps program. And that Peace Corps program is not unique. There are Peace Corps volunteers just like Jimmy all over the world. As Larry said, we have 8,655 volunteers right now. And we're on track to go up to 10,000 by the end of 2011, which this is our 50th anniversary year. And 10,000 is the number that is in the Peace Corps legislation as being the smallest number that the U.S. government should be supporting. Now, at 8,655, it is the largest number of volunteers we've had since 1970. So we've been operating below that 10,000 limit for quite a long time, and we'll be very happy to get back up to 10,000 in our 50th anniversary year. I want to just quickly highlight some examples of Rotary International and Peace Corps partnership that already exist. There are many, many ways in which we could support each other. One way is that there are Peace Corps volunteers who are active in their communities around the world, and then they come back and they join Rotary Club, and they bring with them their commitment to service. And you met some of the RPCVs that are among you today. So I think that's a very important, first of all, one big contribution to Rotary. Through these people who have a lot of experience in working internationally, they have commitment to public service, a commitment to the same values that Rotary has. And they're often able to continue their service to their host country as Rotarians. I want to just tell you a little story that I read about actually in the Rotarian magazine in an article that was written by Susan Schwartz. There was a whole issue in August of 2008 that was dedicated to Rotary and Peace Corps partnership. And so I read through that because I wanted a very good example of how a Rotarian and Peace Corps work together. And as I said earlier, we don't do a great job of documenting it, but we're going to do a better job in the future. Anyway, Kathy Teichig was a volunteer, a Peace Corps volunteer. She was 23 years old. She went to serve in the community of Santa Rosa de Copan in Honduras, and she was a nurse. And she got to this remote mountainous village. It was a beautiful, just stunningly beautiful, sharp, verdant peaks and ravines with rushing rivers, but it was very isolated. And if you lived in Santa Rosa, there was a district hospital that was very, very poorly stocked, let's say. It was not in very good shape when she arrived. And in order to get to the referral hospital, it was about a 3-day drive, really a walk. So she went there, and on her first day as a 23-year-old nurse, 31 children died in that hospital, and she was just horrified at that. There was the crops had failed that year, and there was just rampant malnutrition. And death was, by her own account, death was all around her. And I don't actually know that much about her Peace Corps service because the article really is about what happened after she was a Peace Corps volunteer. Anyway, she served out her 2-year service, did a great job, really did what she could with what she had to help that hospital in Santa Rosa. And then she went back to rural Ohio thinking that she'd be able to kind of move on to the next phase of her life. But she found out that she couldn't get Santa Rosa out of her mind. I think I have to stop, huh? Okay, anyway, she formed an NGO that was supported by Rotary. She received 2 Paul Harris Fellowship Awards, and recently was the recipient of the Athena Award, which carries a great deal of money with it and prestige. And she has just done a fabulous job of sort of carrying forward the work with support from Rotary International. And these kind of examples of return volunteers who work through Rotary to continue to do good is just one way. Another way is for Rotary projects to work with Peace Corps volunteers in the field. Anyway, my time is up, so I thank you very much for listening and look forward to continued support. We really hope to formalize the relationship between Peace Corps and Rotary soon.
Thank you very much, Carrie. If you'll all, those who have to leave, please go, but this is a terrific program for an international issue. So if anybody has a quick question or something that needs to be answered by the person who knows, here's a quick chance. Anybody have a question? Kemp? I'll bring that mic to you.
I'll just say quickly, I was visiting the Southeast Club this morning and heard this speech and was talking to her afterwards and told her our World Community Services Club just funded a project this month that was developed by Peace Corps volunteers in Panama, and it's a water catchment basin and aqueduct providing. It's a terrific project. The write-up was one of the best we have seen in the club. And so just this month, we've funded a joint project with Peace Corps volunteers in Panama.
Thank you so much, Kemp.